Good evening. Happy Holy Week. Happy Passover. Hope you're all well, my friends. This is Collazo, and you're watching and listening to the Found in Translation Talk Show. The talk show that stacks truth about politics and today's hottest issues. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, nothing but warm feelings and love go out to all of our family and friends as we cope as best we can and support each other during the COVID-19 season. And today's episode is dedicated to many people, but ultimately dedicated to the mental and spiritual health of the Found in Translation community. Again, this is Josue Collazo. Thank you so much for joining us on Ride or Dies. You can download and subscribe anywhere you can download Found in Translation podcast, or listen to the program at WPPMLP 106.5 FM radio in Philadelphia, hashtag People Powered Media. Let's just go right to this conversation. We have some incredible guests that are going to support us again to really ground us in our health, our mental and spiritual health during this very trying time. Say hello to our co-host, running it back again, Sulaih Picorelli. How are you, Sulaih?
How are you, Ray? I'm doing pretty well. Doing really good. Good.
No, we're going to have a great conversation. And, it's going to break us down from a spiritual perspective. Reverend Mairena, well, you've got a couple quick political news topics you wanted to get past me on this episode.
Well, sure thing. So 2 quick things, Ray. First, he has ended his presidential run. How do you think that this impacts the race, and what does it mean now that former Vice President Joe Biden is the presumptive Democratic nominee?
Well, statistically, he's basically had the nomination sewn up since early March. Senator Sanders has changed American politics. He probably just was a little too ahead of his time and not quite the political personality to win a nomination. But, the things he was talking about 5 years ago, people thought were crazy, are now pretty much at the center of our policy. I mean, we just did a $2 trillion social net safety program for our country. And obviously, it's an extreme case and would have been largely unnecessary, wasn't for the incompetence administration. But my point is that concepts like, expanding healthcare access for people, providing more, utilizing social programs to help more disadvantaged people. He's brought the politics in a way that includes conversations that 5 years ago just would have been thought of as crazy or extreme. It's not extreme. It's a big part of Democratic politics and a big part of our conversation. In terms of Biden, look, that election is like 7 months from now. Biden's got a lot of work to do. And part of that work is for him to engage Bernie supporters because they weren't the majority of the party, but they're the most passionate part of our coalition, and we need to take care of those people. So a lot of work to do, and best to Senator Sanders.
So then we've got reports circulating that Nevada U.S. Senator Catherine Cortez-Masto is on Joe Biden's short list to become his VP pick. Do you think this is real? Should we be excited about it?
Well, we should be excited about it. For people that don't know, Senator Catherine Cortez-Masto is the first and only Latina in the U.S. Senate. Currently, the only Mexican-American in the U.S. Senate, the only Mexican-American Democrat in the U.S. Senate. If you're not from the Southwest or from Nevada, you probably don't know much about her because she's got a very low-key kind of personality, but a very, very strong candidate, someone that could definitely be a vice president. No question about it. She was the former attorney general of the state of Nevada when she was before being a senator, she was the attorney general, and she did a lot of work around consumer financial protection work, making sure people weren't screwed on their mortgages. Did a lot of work around sex trafficking, preventing and prosecuting sex traffickers. So this is a woman of very high caliber, very clean. There's no scandals. You don't got to worry about her. And my sources are telling me she's definitely going to be in that top 2 or 3. But the question is going to be, does she have the charisma? And she doesn't have the name recognition like a Senator Harris or even like a Senator Klobuchar would. So will that hurt her in the end to deny the nomination? Bottom line is that whether it's picking Cortez-Masto, who'd be a great vice president, who I would fully support, but beyond that, Biden's got to do more for Latinos. And personally, I think a strong, cutting-edge Puerto Rico policy will provide them equal funding when there's a hurricane stuff. That's obvious. Not, oh, we'll support them with the plebiscite, which has been basically what Democrats have talked about for 100 years. Starting with getting rid of the Jones Act, starting with equality on Medicaid reimbursement, starting with getting rid of the Promesa Board, real policies that would impact the people of Puerto Rico in a very significant way need to be on the table. And I need to hear Vice President Biden talking about that now. So he's got a lot of work to do, but obviously, we're going to ride with him. Unfortunately, many people voted for him because he literally and figuratively is the ghost of Obama. So now he's going to have to become the real Joe Biden here, the one that we know he can be, but he's got some work to do. Let's bring on our very special guest, and Sulaih, I believe you're going to introduce him.
Hello, Reverend. How are you? Happy Holy
Great.
Week and happy Passover to everyone out there. We wanted to take this time to reflect on how we can regroup in our faith and beliefs during the most holiest of times, and to help us reflect on how to think about faith during COVID-19. We are honored to welcome the pastor of West Kensington Ministry, Reverend Adan Mairena, to Found in Translation Talk Show.
Thank you for having me. Glad you're feeling better, Rafael, and thank you again always for keeping our community informed in a responsible way, and for keeping us updated in what seems to be a time where things change every hour. So you guys are really doing a great job. It's interesting. You mentioned Passover yesterday. Our Jewish brothers and sisters began the Passover.
Absolutely.
And the Passover included plagues, right? It included plagues and droughts and famine and a lot of death. So it's our times are, sometimes, we could say there's nothing new under the sun, right? So here we are experiencing, in a sense, what they experienced 4,000 years ago. We're reminded of that story. The followers of Christ were starting to multiply everywhere. By this point, they were already in Rome and Spain. A lot of the early Christians, a lot of them were scientists as well, and a lot of them were doctors. So from the beginning, Christians, unlike other people of different faiths, whenever there was a plague or whenever there was something horrible festering among the land, the wealthy people and Christian for the most part, or Jewish, leave. Like they would run to the hills, right? It's like the lepers, right? The lepers were asked to leave the city, and they were not allowed to. And shown us these things would take place. The Christians instead saw this time as a time for them to step up, and they would take care of their neighbors, and they would nurse them. And ultimately, that's why a lot of Christian, because they said, "Who weird people? You're not part of my tribe. You're not part of my clan, and here you are caring for me when you can infect yourself." So, they'd be asked this question, and they'd respond, "Well, our teacher taught us this, that we're supposed to love each other and take care of each other, and our teacher even touched the lepers and those who were unclean." And I'm seeing that as a response that a lot of Christians are doing nowadays. I'm working with churches that I've never worked with before. Like Rafael, Kensington is that we got socioeconomic differences, cultural differences, but yet right now we're working together in providing thousands and thousands of pounds of food to people. The church, we have become a distribution center. Just today, we gave away 700 on Monday as well. So as the doctor was speaking, we're all tired. We're all tired. We're all working hard, adapting. But that is the response that the church is taking. The early church, from its Judaic roots, we know Christianity. Jesus was a Jew, so from its early days was clear on that in times of need like this, in a responsible way, like going back to the early Christians that practiced medicine and science, it was a combination of the faith, right, of a prayer and faith and wisdom, but also being intelligent about it, like trusting the science, trusting the experts, the folks that really know what's happening. Like I'm really upset when I see churches in the South and even around here that are still trying to congregate. And I think, Jesus saves and God heals, but we combine our faith with best practices and knowledge and science and adhering to what we're being asked to do as a part of our faith. Part of our faith is to be obedient, and that's what we're called to do. I mean, we read in the book of Acts that there was a famine in Antioch, I think. Well, there was a worldwide plague, actually, famine in like the 2nd and 3rd century. And the response of the Christians in Antioch, which is not in Jerusalem, right, was for them to collect food and money and to go share. That's a response. That's a response that we, as the leaders of the free world, in a sense, that's a response we could learn from and say, wait, we need to go to places like Puerto Rico and Central America and places where they don't have we actually got to do it even here in our own country. I'm in West Kensington, and it's a food desert and a job desert and sometimes even a hope desert. But here we are. So I just want to make sure that we pay attention to that. That our response says a lot about our faith. This is no time for churches on themselves and how are they going to collect el diezmo and offering church. This is a time to reach out to our immediate neighbors and to make sure that they're being fed and taken care of. And, I'm blessed. I live in Norris Square, and we have a friends group of the park that is very active. We have a senior center across the street that's run by the diocese that they're taking care of. We have a hospital. We have some nice nonprofits, Norris Neighborhood Project, Norris Square Neighborhood Project, Norris Square Community Alliance, SEBA, who Rafael, I know you worked with them a lot, that advocated that a lot of the city's communications would be in English and in Spanish. So I'm blessed to be in a community with our city councilwoman, Maria, who she's a woman of faith, and she has fought for us to get what we need in terms of food, police presence, more food in order for, as you all know, of the largest cities, we're the poorest. Of the different ethnicities, the Latinos are the biggest group that are poor and hungry. So people of faith are stepping up in their own way. I work people of all. I believe, God presents God's self to everyone in the way God chooses. And God through me is Jesus Christ. So my response is to be like Jesus. And that's what's happening. And right now it's, this time of year, Lent, right? No matter Protestant, Roman Catholic. So it's a time oftentimes where we're giving up something, right? We're giving up something. We're being a little bit more prayerful. We're getting ready for Maundy Thursday when Jesus supposedly, he got arrested, betrayed, washed the feet. And normally we give something up, right? And I was thinking like, wow, normally we choose to give something up, but this has forced us to give up community, to give up connection, to give up relationships, to give up interaction. And we have been forced, like Jesus, to be in this wilderness where we don't know how long we're going to be in it, and to listen.
Reverend, let's go from there. And by the way, I snapped because this is why we got Reverend Mairena on the show. This is someone that lives the lyrics and walks the walk and talks the talk, and one of my spiritual advisors as well. Reverend, so there's a lot of people out there that feel like they're in the wilderness. Spiritually, the anxiety, we talked the first half of the show, mental health, anxiety, uncertainty, right? I mean, we all want this to end, but we have no idea really how this is going to end and what will be the stages of the end, right? There's just so much uncertainty around this whole situation. Yep. So as we approach as we're in this holiest of weeks and holiest of weekends for many faiths, people of faith that and that are looking to try to get some clarity from this uncertainty, share a message with them around how they should how do we reground ourselves in our spirituality at this moment?
Yeah, at times like this, it's easy to say, like, why is God allowing us to suffer, right? Why is God letting this happen? And my message to that, my response to that is that the story of Jesus going to meet his friend Lazarus who was dead. Jesus goes and it says that Jesus is weeping, that Jesus is suffering. Jesus himself is in solidarity with us, and God is suffering with us. God is not leaving us alone. We're not abandoned. We're not forsaken. So God's presence is amongst us through eaters. Just said that her friend went to buy food, and those acts of love are evidence of how God is working spiritually through people to get needs met. I would, in practical terms, I would say like what can lead us to a authentic relationship with, from the Christian perspective, is normally Easter is about how many eggs and chocolates and food and there's a lot of commercialization around Easter, right? And this time of year is like, wow, we can keep it simple. We can simply read the story. We can simply connect in a way that tells us what this story is about. It's about death not conquering life. It's about restoration. It's about healing. It's about the power of God, not God having the last word through resurrection, empowering us to live better lives, to connect more with each other. So this is in practical terms, we could say like, wow, what is the meaning of the resurrection in our own ways? And we have time right now. We have time to read scripture. We have time to pray or meditate or however we connect. And I appreciate, Rafael and Amiga, that you're actually lifting up spirituality, because we have forgotten that we are made up of a physical being, our mental health, and our spirit. That's a part of who we are. So recognizing that first and foremost, I'm separating, getting to the root of what does this Holy Week mean? Holy means separate. Separate is like the Sabbath. We separate one day to think of our connection with God. Again, the commercialization of our faith. This is a good time to really connect. And I would say the rituals. There are rituals that keep us grounded. That's just human psychology development, right? There are rituals. You can pray, you can light a candle, you can do the rosary. If you're Muslim, the beads, whatever you need to do. There are these rituals that exist in order to keep us connected and have a practice and just remind us of who we are. We're creations of a mysterious, living, loving creator God that has not left us alone, has not forsaken us. And again, reclaim this Easter story and have hope that we, like the doctor said, this is the end. This is not the end. Recognizing where we've been, we've never been abandoned, forsaken. So it's a message of hope. It's a message of trust. It's a message of, again, think with your mind and love with your heart, but be safe, be smart, stay home, take advantage of the time to find the better you, to connect. I mean, right? I imagine right now there's so many beautiful things happening that we are going to become aware of. There's probably someone writing one of the best novels that's ever going to be written. There's probably somebody inventing something. There's relationships, hopefully, that are being like restored. I've connected with friends from high school. I've connected with people who normally, we're too busy. We're too busy for each other. And now we're because we hunger for human connection, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's funny because sometimes I don't even think they're listening to what I'm saying. I think they just love on each other, to get that hug of the passing of the peace and to be in community. And that's fine. Ultimately, if we look at the Trinity, it's a community, right? Father, Son, Holy Spirit, the disciples together. So to me, the message of hope is right now we're in the wilderness, but we will soon be in community again. And trust.
My co-host, Sulaih Picorelli, Reverend, had a question for you.
Yes. Reverend, if at the top of our conversation, you talked about how now you're working with organizations that, in the past you maybe weren't working with, and how COVID-19 has presented the opportunity for you to connect. Yes. Can you share with us, under, one of the new things that you're working on with a new organization?
Well, again, we were never into being a food pantry. We had like emergency food for people like with really, desperate needs. But now through an organization called Easter Outreach, they normally would bring a truckload of food on Easter Saturday, and we would distribute that for families to have a meal. But now they said, because, they do this across the city, but they said, since we're not doing that, we want to stock you up twice a week. And then you get that to your an outreach center. Pastor Jose and Debbie Carrera, they're right here, right across Front Street with the River Awards, that they're like in Port Richmond, Fishtown. So they're bringing that amazing amounts of produce and good food. And then the city, through our councilwoman and Joanna Otero Cruz and the mayor, is getting close to 2,000 boxes of food Mondays and Thursdays we give it out 10 to 12. So, and we also now, we're delivering to our especially our ancianos. I'm getting calls from Germantown. I'm getting calls from Southwest Philly, from up north by like Einstein Hospital. And we're delivering it. We're not asking questions. So those organizations and people's generosity and volunteers that come through, it's, again, we are not, that wasn't our business, right? That was because there's other people that do that. But now we're all doing it jointly and learning as we go.
It's an impactful partnership.
Absolutely. Reverend.
This is definitely like having a rally around something that we do that's tangible.
That's right, Reverend. And you're listening to Reverend Adan Mairena on Founding Translation. Reverend, how I got to work with you was your tremendous work you do with our young people in that part of the city. And I just wanted you to share your reflections on how are they dealing with this moment? I mean, you talk about confusing. Some of them are missing high school graduations, proms. Some of them are, how they're getting educated is sort of up in the air at this point. So, these are young people that maybe didn't have the kind of support they deserved anyway. And now they're dealing with more isolation and less resources. Yeah. So share with us how our young people are in your community are dealing with this, and any thoughts you have for people that are trying to support our young people through this process.
As the doctor mentioned, we got to be a little bit more tolerant. We got to be a little bit more lenient, meet them where they are. The situation here is a lot of our young people, just like every community, there's a diversity of parenting styles. A lot of our young people sometimes are already adultified, like they take care of their little brothers and sisters, and they're already, in a sense, although they're 12, 13, they're like 18 or 19 because they have a lot more responsibility. Are where they're not supposed to be. That's dangerous. And we have a mentoring program here at our church. It's called Building Bridges. So we have it's a new program. We have a handful of kids matched with adults, and they meet they used to meet once a week for an hour. And the purpose of the program is to disrupt the school to prison pipeline, because there's just so much connection between truancy and the criminal justice system. There's a definite connection. So that obviously they're not meeting, and the challenge is our kids don't have the tablets yet. There's the digital divide. So right now our adults, they're calling the youth just to check in on them. Hopefully, as soon as they get their tablets, that they can at least see each other. Our youth, I have a young man here that he's not going to graduate. He's going to graduate, but he's not going to celebrate it. So you can tell that there's some sadness. Our young people are not going to be able to celebrate or say bye to their friends. Obviously, today we learned that they're not going back at all. So my prayer, and I would ask for all of us to be mindful as well, that a lot of our youth are in homes that are not the healthiest place to be. So the church, the park, after school programs, school, that was their sanctuary. That was their safe space. And now quite a few of them are in places where I prefer them not to be, but that's where they are for now.
Reverend, you also, one of the gifts you give us is the gift of music. And you always incorporated the talent and music into the ministry you do. And you actually were recently profiled, I think today, by Philadelphia Inquirer columnist Helen Ubiñas, who does so much for our community, chronicling so many important issues for us in the city of Philadelphia. So share with people a little bit about Helen's column today.
That's amazing. Yeah, it came out today. It's on Philly.com.
Perfect.
And we have a beautiful building. Excuse me?
Perfect timing. I didn't even plan it.
Man, So we have a beautiful building built in the 1860s, and upstairs is just a very divine, special space. Imagine World War I, II, baptisms, funerals, weddings, celebrations taking place up there for hundreds of years. It's a big space, could fit like 600 people. So I was up there. I needed a breather. I just went up there, sat down, and we don't use it. We do everything downstairs. So I went and I took a picture and I just posted on Facebook. I said, any musicians want to play? And couple weeks later, one of my neighbors calls me, and he's a professional flutist. He plays for the chamber orchestra and he's a teaching. I mean, he's amazing. And he called me and he said, can I come? And the back of my mind, I'm thinking, great, I'm so busy. I don't want to do this. And I went upstairs and I sat down, and he played beautifully. He played some classic Christian songs like How Great Thou Art. And I sat and I breathed, and I realized that that was the first time in maybe a week and a half or two that I actually sat down and I let it all wash in. I let it all like, wow, I'm not seeing the only time I see my neighbors, and going back to you, Rafa, our kids, is when they're here picking up food or standing in line. And so anyways, he played, and then the journalist Helen Ubinas saw it, because I put it live on Facebook. She saw it. Next thing you know, she's here. She did a story that's out today. And I already have artists that are committed to come every Friday at noon to play upstairs by themselves. Actually, a Latino violin teacher reached out to me today. So
that's so cool.
So every Friday at noon, we're in the big upstairs, just going to have one person up there, a soloist, maybe two people at the most.
Well, Reverend, I'm going to, that is such a wonderful story. We're going to keep sharing your social media content related to the music that you're doing. I am working on it. I don't want to say it right now because I don't have it 100% confirmed, but I'm working on something related to that where we're going to incorporate a couple of young people into it from a music perspective. I want to thank the Reverend, our dear friend, Reverend Adan Mairena. Shout out to my first Honduran brother, Luis Cerros. I wanted to make sure he was watching today. So said otro Hondureño that's representing as well. So, and all of the wonderful people that we have to support during this time. They're doing a lot of good things, like the good Reverend, like Dr. Lena. Thank you, Sulaih Picorelli, my fearless co-host, for joining us today under not ideal conditions.
That was a sneeze.
It happens. Well, there's plenty of social distancing here. So anyway, thank you all so much for joining this episode. Stay safe, family. Reverend, keep up the good work. Enjoy your Holy Week, familia, and let's just stay familia and support each other. That's the most important thing we want to get out of this conversation. Take care.
Amen. Thank both of you. Keep up the good work.
Bye, guys.